The leaders of the U.S. and China are paying state visits to South Korea on the occasion of the APEC leaders meeting next week. President Lee Jae-myung will hold a summit with his American counterpart on the 29th and with his Chinese counterpart on November 1st. Also next week, U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping will meet in Gyeongju, with all eyes on whether their first in-person meeting since Trump's return will ease the two sides' thorny trade ties. And South Korean officials say Seoul and Washington still have sticking points in their trade negotiations over the amount of Seoul's $350 billion direct investment. We begin at the presidential office. President Lee Jae-myung is gearing up for a busy week, first attending the ASEAN summit in Malaysia and then hosting the APEC economic leaders meeting in South Korea. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yoo-jin starts us off.
The upcoming week will be a super week of multilateral diplomacy for South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. That's according to his National Security Advisor Wi Sung-rak on Friday. As expected, President Lee will first travel to Malaysia on Sunday to attend the ASEAN summit.
President Lee's first ASEAN summit will serve as an opportunity to elevate the annual $200 billion trade and over 12 million people-to-people exchange between Korea and ASEAN. His trip will also strengthen cooperation in sectors like AI and enhance joint responses to regional challenges such as online scam crimes.
On his first evening there, the president will have dinner with members of the Korean community. Monday will start with a bilateral summit with Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet. The two will discuss joint efforts to combat online scam crimes, an issue that has been making headlines in South Korea for weeks. President Lee will then attend the South Korea ASEAN and ASEAN Plus 3 summits, which include Japan and China, before holding talks with Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar bin Ibrahim ahead of his return flight in the afternoon. Waiting for him is the APEC economic leaders meeting in Gyeongju. It's another high-profile stage on which the president will host back-to-back summits and chair the 21-member forum on trade, artificial intelligence, and demographic challenges.
Through summits with the United States, China and Japan, we'll complete the fastest ever round of reciprocal visits with Washington, restore relations with Beijing through the first Chinese state visit in 11 years, and sustain positive momentum with Tokyo by meeting Japan's new Prime Minister early in her term.
The biggest spotlight will be on his second in-person meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday, as Seoul and Washington have yet to finalize a trade deal. Also in focus is Lee's first summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Saturday after the two-day APEC leaders meeting ends. Working-level talks are underway to schedule a one-on-one with new Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. Two major multilateral stages in a single week: the ASEAN summit in Malaysia and the APEC economic leaders meeting in Gyeongju. It remains to be seen how President Lee will leverage this super week to deepen diplomatic ties and help shape global discussions on shared challenges. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
And Prime Minister Kim Min-seok has now conducted a final on-site inspection in Gyeongju, with the APEC leaders meeting less than a week ahead. During his two-day visit from Thursday to Friday, Kim met with host economy liaison officers who will be assisting the visiting leaders and delegations and expressed his appreciation for their efforts. The inspection reviewed infrastructure and logistical preparations, including accommodation and venues such as the International Media Center. The leaders of North Korea and the U.S. should not miss out on opportunity to meet along the inter-Korean border during South Korea's hosting of APEC next week. That is according to Unification Minister Jung Dong-young on Friday, who urgently met with reporters to convey his call for a Kim-Trump summit. Jung said both the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump have shown a willingness to meet, and that Seoul has cited movements across the border to tie up the inter-Korean border area, including Pyongyang may be indicating Pyongyang may be ready for a meeting. He added that Seoul backs a meeting of Kim and Trump and is preparing the means, such as telecommunications and vehicles, to support a summit if it takes place. Jung further warned that further momentum for a Kim-Trump meeting would be hard to come by, as the U.S. leaders' visit to the Korean peninsula does not occur frequently. Also, the White House has confirmed U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will sit down for their face-to-face meeting, also in Gyeongju next week, with the world closely watching if their meeting this time will do anything to soften their year-long trade war. Yoon Jin reports.
The White House confirmed on Thursday that U.S. President Donald Trump will be meeting Chinese leader Xi Jinping in South Korea on October 30th. It is a part of Trump's wider Asia trip, which includes his first stop in Malaysia on Sunday for the ASEAN summit, followed by a meeting in Japan with the newly sworn-in prime minister on Tuesday. He'll then move on to South Korea on Wednesday for his meeting with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. Trump is also scheduled to deliver keynote remarks at the APEC CEO luncheon and participate in a working dinner with APEC leaders before flying back to the U.S. Thursday evening. But attention is being drawn to his confirmed meeting set for Thursday morning with Xi Jinping. It will be the first face-to-face meeting for both leaders since Trump's return to office. The meeting comes amid an escalation in trade tensions between the two countries. Trump said the first question he would ask Xi would be about fentanyl, as it is the chemical that's been a leading cause of U.S. overdose deaths, which Washington accuses Beijing of failing to curb its exports of. Beijing, in return, has accused Washington of using the chemical to blackmail China. Tensions have jumped recently, with China announcing restrictions on its rare earth mineral exports, to which Trump has threatened to impose an extra 100% tariff on Chinese goods from November. Attention is drawn to whether the world's two largest economies can hammer out some kind of sustainable trade deal, as it could send shockwaves through various industries around the world. Jin, Arirang News.
South Korea's industry minister says talks with the U.S. over a $350 billion investment package remain deadlocked, with both sides still divided over how much of it should come into direct cash. Park Jun-han has the details.
After returning from talks in Washington with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Industry Minister Kim Jong-un told a National Assembly audit on Friday that South Korea and the U.S. were in intense confrontation over the amount of an upfront cash payment and the $350 billion investment package South Korea pledged for tariff reductions.
There are stark differences between the two sides over what constitutes an appropriate level. From our standpoint, we believe the upfront cash payment should be reduced from the current proposal, while the U.S. side maintains it should be larger. Both sides remain sharply divided on this issue.
Kim pointed to three key principles that must be ensured to finalize the deal. First, whether the agreement truly aligns with the mutual interests of both countries. Second, whether the investment project is commercially viable and a worthwhile endeavor. And lastly, that the deal should minimize its impact on financial and foreign exchange markets. Minister Kim further explained that the U.S. side has shown considerable understanding of the potential adverse effects the investment could have on South Korea's foreign exchange market if it is made entirely in cash. Regarding a security deal between the two countries, which could involve energy security and defense cost sharing, National Security Advisor Lee Sung-rak said on Friday that security agreements have reached certain understandings, but may not be announced during the APEC leaders' meeting. Lee said the U.S. wants to announce both a security agreement and a tariff deal at the same time, but either could come first, and the South Korean side doesn't mind which one is announced. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, President Lee Jae-myung says his government is carefully reviewing the potential impact of the trade talks with the U.S. on South Korea's financial markets. That's according to an interview with the Singaporean daily The Straits Times ahead of his one-on-one with U.S. President Donald Trump next week in Gyeongju on the sidelines of the APEC leaders' meeting. The president said he is exploring ways to maximize a mutual benefit while remaining cautious about working towards any artificial deadline. South Korea's Finance Minister Koo said Friday that action will be taken in response to any volatility in the foreign exchange market. Speaking at a related review meeting with key financial policymakers, Koo cited global uncertainties, including U.S.-China trade tensions, as one of the reasons for foreign exchange market instability. The Finance Ministry noted that domestic demand is rebounding due to the effects of the supplementary budget and improved consumer sentiment, with exports and the domestic stock market performing better than expected. However, concerns were raised about South Korea's overheating property market, with a swift action urged to address the demand for housing. South Korean chip giants Samsung Electronics and SK hynix set a new record in terms of combined market capitalization, driving the benchmark KOSPI to new highs. Our economics correspondent Moon Ji-young tells us more.
The combined market capitalization of Samsung Electronics and SK hynix has caught attention, surpassing 1,000 trillion Korean won based on their closing prices. According to the Korea Exchange, the two chip giants' total market capitalization reached 1,024.7 trillion Korean won, or $710 billion on the bourse today. Samsung Electronics shares rose over 2% to close at 98,800 won, while rival SK hynix jumped more than 6% to 510,000 won. This strong performance marks an incredible surge of over 100% in just 10 months compared to their combined market cap at the end of last December.
Overall, there's a strong positive outlook for the semiconductor industry. The anticipation of a semiconductor supercycle, a topic consistently discussed by investment firms globally, continues to drive market sentiment. Additionally, rising prices for DRAM and NAND are boosting expectations for improved earnings, allowing Samsung Electronics and SK hynix to spearhead the market's upward trend.
He added that despite the global economic slowdown and a lack of clear improvement in corporate earnings, the market's rise was driven by expectations for future value. Meanwhile, the broader market also saw significant gains. The benchmark KOSPI surged to as high as 3,951 during intraday trading, setting a new record high. It ultimately closed at 3,941, up 2.5% from the previous session, marking another record high for the closing price. This sharp rise in the benchmark KOSPI was notably influenced by easing trade tensions and optimism for the semiconductor industry. Investor sentiment was further lifted by news of a planned summit between the leaders of the United States and China. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has called achieving balanced regional growth a must for sustainable growth and the survival of the nation. Speaking at a town hall meeting in the southeastern city of Daegu on Friday, he noted that Korea may end up in a situation similar to Japan's 30-year economic slump if the regional divide remains unresolved and home prices continue to soar in capital areas. He suggested providing incentives to rural areas to help them secure more infrastructure and businesses. Korea's centuries-old craftsmanship is finding new life in the modern day. An exhibition at Deoksugung Palace highlights the artisans keeping those traditions alive for future generations. Our Park Hyo-bin was there.
Preserving tradition is just as important as creating it anew. A group of Korea's master artisans known as National Heritage Craftsmen have come together to showcase how traditional craftsmanship continues to thrive. Inside Deoksugung Palace, Korea's heritage is reborn through the hands of those devoted to keeping it alive. From a reinterpretation of the Irorobongdo, the iconic royal folding screen that stood behind the king's throne, to a faithful restoration of Gyeongbokgung Palace's floral walls, the exhibition features more than 120 works by artisans and apprentices across disciplines such as carpentry, painting, and sculpture. These craftspeople spent months, sometimes an entire year, replicating the exact materials or techniques of the past.
This portrait was made using yungnimun, a technique from the late Joseon period. We use natural pigments based on original recipes. Recreating the traditional process requires multiple attempts and can take 6 months to a year.
Their dedication goes beyond restoring old methods. It's about reviving the spirit behind them.
As a builder of hanok, Korea's traditional wooden houses, I am proud to promote the excellence of Korean architecture worldwide. We're doing our best to raise the global profile of our country's heritage craftsmen.
Each brushstroke and carving embodies centuries of accumulated skill and pride. And through their hands, the legacy of Korea's ancestors finds new life.
Our forebears left us this national heritage. Now it's our turn to pass it on to the next generation. That's why we keep creating, so that tradition never fades.
The exhibition, which runs until this Sunday, reminds visitors that heritage is not merely a relic of the past, but a living dialogue between yesterday and today, carried forward by those who refuse to let it disappear. Park Hoo-bin, Arirang News.
There are many reasons to wait for Fridays, but one of them is definitely the arts and culture coverage by our culture correspondent Park Kwon-woo. He is here in the studio with us. Happy Friday, Kwon-woo.
Great to be here, Dami.
So Kwon-woo, what do you have for us tonight?
So Dami, 10, 9, 8, 7. We just got 7 days left until the APEC leaders meeting held in Gyeongju. The city is already alive with so many different kinds of cultural events. And as APEC brings together all 21 member nations to discuss future-oriented values and exchange ideas, including in the cultural sphere, one special event stands out. And that's a collaborative art exhibition between two historical rich cities, Gyeongju and Taiwan's ancient capital, Tainan. And they're showcasing special artworks, raising expectations for more cultural exchanges down the road. But before I give too much away, let's first take a look at what's going on in Gyeongju. Just days before the APEC leaders meeting kicks off in Gyeongju, a city known for its 1,000-year-old heritage, the spirit of cultural exchange is already in full swing. For the first time, artists from Gyeongju and Taiwan's ancient capital, Tainan, have come together for a joint art exhibition, following an exchange agreement signed last year. A total of 40 works created by 20 artists from each city are on display, celebrating friendship and a shared vision for a successful APEC event. A representative piece titled Bungjang Malli, an idiom meaning a long and glorious journey ahead, embodies that significance. While Gyeongju artists are presenting works across diverse genres, including pottery and paintings, all 20 pieces from Tainan feature calligraphy, as it's one of East Asia's most emblematic art forms.
Calligraphy is like a common language, as the two countries have been exchanging for a long time. And this exhibition carries special meaning, as much of Taiwan's culture and history started from Tainan.
Other Taiwanese artists also expressed their desire for more collaborative projects.
Through calligraphy, we've been able to learn from one another and grow together. I hope programs like this will continue and that Korean artists will also have the opportunity to visit Taiwan for future exchanges.
Those thoughts were also shared by the Korean artists.
Artists need to actively communicate and share their artistic spirit and vision. We need more opportunities for artists to meet in person and engage in deeper dialogue. We're gradually working on plans to broaden our exchanges with more places in the future.
Following Thursday's opening ceremony, the exhibition will run through November 1st for visitors from around the world. And as these artists dream of deeper ties, Gyeongju's journey of cultural exchange is just beginning, setting the stage for meaningful interactions during the upcoming APEC event. Totally a Bungjang Malli.
Well, Kwon-woo, I hear more collaborative projects are coming up in Gyeongju. What are they?
That's right. So currently 22 cities across 12 countries, including Japan, China, and Italy, have signed exchange agreements with Gyeongju, and 8 of them are from China. A city official noted that Gyeongju's ties with China date back to the Silla dynasty, adding that the exchanges hold special significance as China will host next year's APEC event. She added that there's more to come.
Nothing's been officially set for next year yet, but we've been steadily holding photo and art exchange exhibitions with our sister cities, and that'll probably continue. We're also collaborating with sports. Gyeongju Sam Marathon team will take part in a race in China this November.
Konu, what a wonderful collaboration. Now, what are some other cultural events taking place near the APEC event?
Yeah, so there are plenty of things going on right now. And one thing I highly recommend for our viewers is definitely seeing Gyeongju's nightscape. It's totally beautiful. And there are stunning media art shows that are lighting up the city's cultural heritage sites, including the ancient tombs. The program actually kicked off today, running through November 16th. And I'll be covering more of this during my visit to Gyeongju next week, so stay tuned. And there will also be a hanbok fashion show and music festivals featuring musicians, including popular K-pop artists such as G-Dragon, Rise, and IVE. And other than that, there are plenty of exhibitions and events running throughout the APEC period. So if you're planning to visit Gyeongju this time of year, don't miss out.
Well, I'm sure you'll keep us posted during the APEC meeting next week. I'll see you down in Gyeongju next Friday.
All right, thank you.
Unlike clear autumn weather across the rest of the country, rain has persisted in areas on the East Coast. With a heavy rain advisories in place in Yeongdeok in Gyeongsangbuk-do province, rain will continue until tomorrow. About 20 to 60 millimeters of rain is expected in the northern coastal parts of Gyeongsangbuk-do province, 10 to 50 millimeters in the center and southern coastal areas of Gangwon-do province. Seoul reached 20 degrees Celsius during the day today, which is about 2 degrees higher than the average temperature at this time of year. There will be clear autumn weather throughout this weekend. Tomorrow morning will start off at above 10 degrees all over the country. Daily highs will go up to 18 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon, 22 degrees in Jeju. We'll see a more intense cold early next week with the morning temperature in Seoul plunging to 2 degrees Celsius on Tuesday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.